Joey Balistreri. Welcome to my work table. I am having so much fun. I am working with the beads from this month's deluxe Czech bundle from Didi Beads. I did an unboxing and kind of shared what's in the bundle, and I don't know at the time of this filming if it will be sold out, but if you can get your hands on one of Stella's deluxe Czech bundles, you won't regret it. It is so amazing. It's really a sampler of Czech glass. But as you can see, I'm going crazy, and I haven't even touched the 2 whole beads that were in the box. I have a whole nother project planned for that. So I am going to make a necklace using these gorgeous beads. These little Czech glass kind of, they're shaped cylinder beads, and each one has its own little stripes. It's so beautiful. And then there were these little three-sided round beads that have almost like a little pinch bead feeling, and they just look great with the kind of coffee or latte colors in this striped bead. And then I am doing another project. This is going to be a little bracelet with the coin beads that are gold washed that were in the bundle, and these cool, really cool little red pressed glass, kind of a half bicone, and I have just strung them on some soft flex medium all-purpose wire. It's the 49 strand, and I'm using the bone color, and I've done both projects on this same bead stringing wire. But this is my little pattern, and I was just playing. I pulled some things from my stash, some gold filled spacer beads and some gold plated wavy disc spacer beads, and look how much fun you can have. Like, I just had fun with the pattern, like kind of stringing those half bicones or those pyramid beads back to back. And to go with this bracelet, I have created this little earring. These gorgeous drops were in the mix. There were 3 of them, so I have enough for the earrings and then some left over in case I want to do a charm or a dangle. And I just thought that they looked very wintry. They kind of look like they're frozen. They have a little AB finish on them, and you can see through them, but the shape is just amazing. So I went into my stash and took out a ball head pin, and these cone beads are a great Amazon find. It's a whole selection, like a whole assortment of all different sizes and shapes of cone end caps. They're wonderful. And so I'm doing the same end caps on my necklace as I am here. Let me reach behind me and just show you. I loved these so much that I went back and got them in other finishes. So they had, I think, 4 finishes, but they're all shapes and sizes, from really tiny to a little bit larger. Just all these cone shaped end caps, some really tiny ones. And here's the copper color. And I just have had so much fun from large to small just playing with this assortment. These look like the Tibetan pewter shaped ones that I've had in my stash for a long time, and I just love them. So that's what I pulled out for that. I will try to show you for these projects what I'm using from my own supplies, because the beads are amazing, but you do need to kind of pull in some things, you know, to do your projects. So in this dish, I have a little clasp, a toggle clasp for this piece, and I have recently been on a girls beading trip to South Florida with 2 of my friends, and we hit 4 bead shops in 3 days, and we actually stayed an extra night with my family in South Florida because we were having so much fun. So I got a little Colosseum charm, and I was thinking that might go on this bracelet, but also in one of the bead shops, on this one I'll show you, I normally do my magical crimping plier, but on these projects I'm going to do a traditional fold over crimp, because I got these gorgeous fluted bead covers, crimp covers at one of the shops in South Florida, and I just thought they were so pretty. That video is coming up. I edited it and tried to condense our little bit of beach time and the things we did, and all the shops. A lot of them have online availability for people who are not coming to Florida or, you know, are not near Florida. But one of our favorite shops in Bradenton, Florida was called Jennifer Weil Studios. And she just had the most amazing beads. But these fluted crimp covers were one of the things that I got. And then in the evening, we worked on bracelets. So I made this with the help of my friend Gail. And I had gotten the pattern and purchased the beads with my sister-in-law months back. And we were just now getting to it. And it was really challenging. So I was glad because Gail is an expert in this. So I was really glad to have her with us so that we were able to complete our project. So that was that little trip, and that video is coming up. And what else was I going to share? So for this necklace project, I am making a really cool beaded chain, and it is going to look like this, and it's going to get attached by this simple loop to the back of this little pattern. And I'm just going to put a little magnetic clasp on it. And so I have a whole bunch of components already made. And what you see in between the little components that I made is a simple figure 8 link. And I'm using my 6-step veil making plier. I'm going to show you how I'm doing that. This is like a super simple way to make a chain, but it is artisan, it is handmade. My little hand went on every section of it, and it is so much fun. So I'm gonna do most of it off camera, but I'll show you how I did everything there. And this bracelet is strung and really ready to crimp. So I'm gonna leave it on the spool, and I'm gonna go ahead and show you how I do a fold over crimp. I love my Xuron crimping plier. So I'm just going to feed a number 2 crimp tube onto this bead stringing wire on the end and put that wire back down through the crimp tube to make a loop. And since I don't have to worry about spacing or anything, all I have to worry about is my loop on on this end. So this is the easy side. When we get to the other side, you do have to kind of watch out for your rigidity, make sure you have the proper space between and that your bracelet is not really tight, but that, it flows around your arm. So we can do that, but I like my Xuron crimping plier. And so on this type of a crimp, you really just want to make sure that your wire here is not crossed or twisted inside the tube once you get your loop. And then there's a lot of divots in this one, different from the magical crimping plier. So I'm going to go to the back one, the largest one, and just rest the crimp tube in there. And when I see that it's in there, and I don't know if the camera is really showing you, but I can see that my wire is not crossed. And then I'm just going to squeeze, and it kind of separates these 2 wires makes a channel for each of them in the tube. And then I'm going to turn it in the opposite direction and just use the other divots in the plier to make sure it is closed really well. You don't need to aggressively smash a fold over crimp tube. Now I have really good quality ones, but you don't need to like kill it. Just make sure that it's folded in half really well. And then I'm going to use one of these little fluted crimp covers. I just really love them and just got them for my stash. So I'm just going to put that over that little fold over tube. And I don't normally do this when I do the magical crimping plier, but these are so pretty. So I'm just going to gently, with my pliers, just gently coax it into position. And the idea is to make it look like a round bead. So I just go like front to back and side to side and make sure that it's closed really well. I still see a little gap in there. You don't want to mangle or smash your crimp cover, so just go slowly. And honestly, I'm using my crimping plier to do this, but you can use really any of your pliers, and you just it's kind of a soft, malleable metal, so you can go gently and carefully. And I still see a little bit of a gap. I tend to fuss with these a little bit, but look at that. Isn't that so pretty? And then when I feed my beads down, I always try to get my cut end through a couple of beads. On this Czech glass ones, I don't think it's going to be possible. It does go through my gold filled spacer bead. Let me try and see. No, it is not. So that's perfectly okay. Just use that gold-filled spacer bead as a little measurement and trim away. And so now I am ready to come to the other end and have a look at my pattern. Isn't that so pretty? And I'm just going to trim just enough to make that loop and set my spool aside. And I'm going to do the same thing, another crimp bead on this wire, and same exact thing as we did on the other end. Just make a loop, get it back down through the tube and whatever bead it will go through, which we already know, just the little gold spacer bead. And then you can use your pliers to help you pull everything. It's nice if you are crimping right onto your clasp, because then you have a little bit of leverage here. And I didn't do that. I should go ahead and put my jump ring. In fact, we can do that. Go ahead and put my jump ring and my clasp on. It just gives you a little something to hold on to. I know crimping is really challenging for some of you. I read it in the comments, and I can remember it was one of the things that took me a long time to get comfortable with it. And now I do it, several different ways. And just close that jump ring really well. These are my little jump rings that I made out of 20 gauge wire using my 6-step veil making plier. And that's the plier I'm going to be using for making those figure 8 links. And I'm doing everything, including these jump rings, out of 20 gauge wire. So, that's easy. You pick the color you like, and there you have it. So now I have a little bit of leverage, and I can just wiggle that down into position. There we go. And so before I crimp, see, I want to make sure that my bracelet is not rigid, that it doesn't have any weird gaps, but that it, flows around my arm, and it looks like I got my length just right. And just check everything. Just make sure that it is the way I want it. Actually, I feel like it could be a little bit tighter. Let me just play with it for a second and see if I'm happy with it. We're going to do the same thing on this side. Now, on the second side, it's a little bit difficult. Just do your best. It's a little bit difficult to make sure the wires are not crossed inside the tube. I can actually see that mine is not, but that's not always possible on the second side because you're dealing with beads and you have the tension. So just do the same thing, fold it in half, and then looks like a little taco, and then come back with the plier in the opposite direction and finish folding it in half. Isn't it funny how we always say, why is it not folding? Let me go this way. Isn't it funny how we always say that the magical crimping plier makes a ravioli, the fold over crimping plier makes a taco? We jewelry makers must really love our food. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and trim this little cut end as closely as I can. They can be, if you don't cut them close enough, they can be really sharp. Looks like I got it. Okay, and same thing. I'm just going to take another one of my little fluted crimp covers and put it right over that crimp. And just, my advice on this is just go slow and don't be aggressive. Same thing as on the other side, just get it in place. And I was using my, you can use really any pliers, just be gentle, just do really slow, gentle movements on your crimp covers. Okay. How pretty that is. And now we can put my clasp on the other end. And I am going to decide, I do have another one of these beads from the necklace. I do have another one of those coin beads. And I'm going to decide when I'm all done with all 3 pieces what my charms are going to be, if any. I usually put a charm, but I'll decide when I'm all done with all 3 projects. Well, I can't hold on to this one today. There we go. Okay, this beautiful little bracelet is done. I'm so thrilled with this because for the fall and winter of 2024 and then going on into 2025, a little pop of red, an accent of red in your outfit is a really big trend. And I'm not really a head to toe red wearing person, but this way I do love it. It's so pretty. I really think it's gorgeous. Let me just check my length, which I got really good. That is so pretty. It doesn't go great with my other bracelets, but it is so pretty. I really, really love it. Okay, let me take this off and set it aside, and I'll show you exactly what I did for this little earring. So these are my extras. So I just took a 2-inch ball head pin because I really wanted to feature this drop, and I just threaded that on, and I went through that little stash of cone-shaped end caps and found that this one just fit beautifully over this bead. And then I used my 1.5 millimeter one-step looper to make a simple loop at the top, and I used this tool as well for these links, and I'm going to show you that as well. So just make a simple loop, pull that down away from the jaw of the plier, and I centered the loop on the head pin. And when I take it away, I have this perfect little loop. I'm not going to touch it because it gets opened again to add to my wire wrapped loop. So I'm just going to take another piece of 20 gauge wire and put a wire wrapped loop in. And the reason that I did that is so that I could tighten this a little bit to keep this coin bead facing forward. So this one spins around 360, but this one I wanted it to stay facing forward. So I'm just going to take this little piece. Let me get a little bit longer piece of wire. I'm just going to take this little piece of 20 gauge wire, put a 90-degree bend, and just do a wire wrapped loop. Bring that wire over the top, rotate it out of my way, bring it around, and then I like to just make sure that the loop is centered on the wire. And I'm going to grab it with my bent chain nose pliers. And since I'm copying this earring, I know that I did 3 wraps. I want it to look as close as it can to the other one. It's an artisan handmade earring, so slight variations are okay. I'm not a machine, and there's plenty of machine-made things, mass-produced things in the world. My jewelry is not one of them. Okay, and I'm going to put one of these gold-filled spacer beads. This is a small one. It's the same as the large ones, but it's a smaller millimeter. I don't remember what it is, but I just added that little dot of gold. And I did find on these Czech beads that if the 20 gauge wire goes through, but if there was even a slight little bend, this bead was not happy about it. There it goes, maybe. There we go. Okay, and I'm just going to repeat the same thing on this end. I won't worry about my bead facing forward until I get a couple wraps in, and then before I secure it into place, I'll make sure that it's facing forward. And just trim off in the back. This little component is done. I'm just going to tuck that cut end really gently, not to damage my little coin bead. Oh, and I got my loop. misaligned a little bit. That's okay. 2 pliers. Can straighten that out. That looks great. Okay, and now this earring is basically done. I'm just going to open that simple loop and attach my component and close it, and that little earring is done. And I didn't put ear wires on these, but you could. This is another earring video that is coming, and I'm just going to use my gold-filled interchangeable ear wires and add these to my jewelry wardrobe, and that little set is done except for a charm. And I'm going to wait till I'm all done with everything to decide what I'm going to do for a charm, if any. I usually do one, but aren't they beautiful? It just really features the beads, and they have a little bit of movement. I just love them. I love that little pop of red. So this little set is just so pretty. I mean, look at this, you guys. And this is from a Czech glass sampler. Just wonderful. So I'm going to set that aside. I'll set this aside, and let me show you what is going on over here. So I'm going to be doing the exact same thing that we did on the bracelet with this section of my necklace, but the backdrop of my necklace, or the back part that's going to go around my neck, let me find the connected part, is this little artisan chain. So it's just going to get attached right there. I don't even need a jump ring because these are simple loops that can be opened, and I'm going to get my length, add this clasp, and it will be done. So what I did here, let me show you. I've got quite a few components already made, and then I've got a lot more of these to make as well, but this is just a simple figure 8 link, and again using that 20 gauge wire. Aren't they pretty? They're so simple. So I'll show you how I did that. You will need your 6-step bail making plier, and I'm using the second to the smallest step on it. And you just take a piece of that 20 gauge wire. I have a whole bunch of scraps. I'm really bad about having scraps of wire, but I don't throw them away, so that is good. I do use them, and I do want a nice clean end. Don't want a pointy end on my wire. And I'm just going to put it in so that I don't feel it, and just wrap it around. And I'm doing this backwards, but I just want to wrap it around so that this wire looks like a P, and it's really like touching. I have it pretty tight. So it really just looks like a P, and it's touching. And then I'm going to put the smaller mandrel so that I'm still wrapping around the same size, and I'm going to wrap this part of the wire around, but this time I'm going to go over. I do want to reposition my plier, and I'll show you why. I just want to pull this wire around so that it looks like, let me change my hand position, so that it looks like it's meeting up with this one. And then when I take it away, I have this beautiful little figure 8. And then in order to trim, you take the flush side of your cutters and just go right there where that wire is meeting the middle wire before I cut. Can you see how I'm doing that? And I'll just give that a snip, and I have that perfect figure 8. So and then I have been tidying up my figure 8 lengths because I'm opening and closing the simple loops on this component and not my figure 8s. And I just like to kind of work hard in the middle, just make sure everything is flat and closed really well, because it is a chain, so I don't want to feel anything. So there's my little component, and this is what it looks like. Again, in between the links, it's so easy. And I will just show you, I was playing around with one of them, and I put this one on my bench block and hammered it flat, and it's so cute. I really like it, but in the end I did decide to keep the wire round, but you can hammer these too if you want to just change the look and make it even more artisan. So what I did for this again is another piece of that 20 gauge wire. my same size 1.5 millimeter one step looper, and since there's no beads or anything on this, I can put it just past the back jaw of the plier. I don't need to feed it all the way through the guide hole because it just wastes all that wire, and then it makes a nice clean cut, so I can skip that step with my cutters, which I have to do on every link when I'm making the figure 8. And then just close it, and I pull this wire down so that loop is now centered on the wire. And when I take it away, I have this perfect loop, and I'm not going to put the tool down because I have so many to make. I'm just going to swing it out of the way. And oh, I forgot to get out what I was using. So I am using these 80 seed bead, and these are Duracoat galvanized gold, which I really love that because they don't darken and tarnish. They really last. The finish lasts for a long time, especially making a chain that's going to be touching my skin, touching my neck. So I'm just going to dump some of these out here on my mat. And that is also what I used as the spacers in between my bead pattern. And then I'm using these tublet beads, and this is called White Champagne Luster. Potomac Beads is one of my favorite sources for tubelets and ingots and seed beads. It's just their website is really comprehensive. So I can link this below, but I was looking at this color, and as you can see, it matches beautifully with the Czech beads in the deluxe bundle. So I just was looking for something petite and that would really, you know, look like a chain, just a really classic, elegant chain. So all I did is make a little pattern with 2 of those seed beads, 1 tublet, and then 2 seed beads. And it's just a really simple component. But when you connect everything, it's stunning. And it looks a lot more, you know, it looks a lot more complicated than it actually is. So I do, the one step looper always makes the loops going up. So I've turned this one so that it's down. Don't ask me why, but when I'm making a chain like this, I do them in opposite directions. So this time I will use the guide hole. So my wire's going through the back, and I'm just going to gently close, make sure that I'm not putting too much pressure there. And again, the tool makes that cut for me. Whoops. And then I'm not popping this thing closed. I'm maintaining control, and then I'm going to pull this away as I'm closing so that I can see that my, you know, my seed beads or my beads are not being damaged. And when I take it away, I have another perfect loop. And again, I'll keep this in my hand. Now, I'm not going to work harden or tidy up these loops because every single one of these is going to get opened and closed. So I'll show you that, but normally what I would do is keep this in my hand and just make a whole bunch of these until I think I'm near the quantity that I need. But I'll show you how easy this is. I'm just going to come to this end and open this simple loop and take one of my figure 8s and add that in. And here's the opportunity to make sure that loop is closed, work hardened, and really nice and tidy. And so here's why I didn't worry about, that one's pretty perfect, but I didn't worry about this one's slightly open, ever so slightly. But I didn't worry, I'm sorry, I digress. I didn't worry about like tidying up the loops when they come out of the looper because I know that I'm going to be opening and closing them again. So that would just be a waste of time, you know, when you're making a long chain like this. And a little work hardening, and that's all I'm going to do is continue to open these and add in my figure 8 little link that I've made. And I have, you know, you'll get a rhythm when you're doing a beaded chain or a rosary chain. You'll get your own kind of rhythm. And so like for me, as I was finishing my figure 8s, and I can see this one needs even a tiny bit of attention, but I was kind of work hardening and tidying these up as they came off my 6-step veil making plier because I didn't plan to touch these again, but rather work with the simple loops. So that's my little chain, and I'm going to continue doing this off camera until I have my desired length, and I'll come back and show you the finished. this is so pretty, you guys. It is so pretty. So I just used some of my handmade jump rings, put this little magnetic clasp, and I will put some pictures up at the end of the video. But look at this gorgeous necklace. I opted to just leave it plain. It's leaning towards being a minimalist piece. It just really features these gorgeous Czech glass beads. I just absolutely love the way this turned out, but this could also be layered. I did this so that it is like just below where the neckline on most of my shirts would be, so I could layer it with so many of my longer pieces. And then you saw the earrings finished, and this bracelet is done. And I did decide to create a little charm because I literally had one coin bead left and one of those three-sided rounded beads. And I used this little head pin from my stash, and I think I can link this as well. I recently got these, and I'll go back to my past orders if you are interested in some beautiful little decorative flower head pins. But in the video that is coming for these earrings, I actually show you how to make your own decorative head pin. It's not a flower, but it's kind of a little like fleur-de-lis thing. It's really cute. So that video is coming. But the only thing I have left to do, two things actually. I need to attach my little dangle, and what I'm going to do, if you've been around my channel, you know my little trick for attaching, but our intuition is to thread our jump ring like through a loop, through this loop or through this jump ring or through the loop on the toggle. But I'm going to grab the entire circumference of my bracelet. It's a little bit fiddly till you get it on there, but that's how I do it. And then I just feed my charm on and get a hold of the jump ring and, you know, close it really well. And I do like to work hard in my jump rings and sometimes even slip my plier inside just to make sure I've created a perfect circle. And so what that does, it's just so wearable. No matter which way I pick this bracelet up and clasp it, my charm is never stuck. It just flows 360 degrees around. So whether I clasp my bracelet like this or whether I go in this direction, I do it on almost all my bracelets. Most of my designs are that way. This little exotic Africa bracelet, the elephant charm is pretty big, but no matter which way I connect my bracelet, he just doesn't get stuck. He hangs perfectly, and I tend to do that. It's just a little detail, but you know, it makes our jewelry comfortable and wearable. So I do have one more thing to do. These little fluted crimp cover beads are just fashion jewelry, as well as these beautiful little cones, and I love them. I've had a lot of fun playing with them, but I know that they will tarnish. This little magnetic clasp is a bead shop item that I know will tarnish, and even this toggle is gold plated, and so are these head pins, but I still brush my Permalac coating over them. These little spacer discs are also gold plated, and I will just go through my whole piece and brush it. Now these gold filled spacer beads, I got these from Amazon. They have amazing reviews. So many people that sell on Etsy say that they've worn these, you know, sold them, worn them in the shower, they don't tarnish. I haven't had them maybe, I don't know, 3-4 months, so I can't speak to that because I don't have some longevity with it, but the reviews were really good, and I have not been brushing that with my Permalac anti-tarnish coating. So if you haven't seen this before, this is really thin. It dries super fast. If you accidentally brush a bead, it does not cloud it. And I will say, one of my friends ordered the matte Permalac coating by mistake. This is the semi-gloss. She wasn't paying attention and she brushed it over something that was pave that had crystals, and the matte one did cloud the crystals. The semi-gloss, when I've brushed it over pave things, crystal things, it does not show at all when it's dry. And this is super easy. I just take my little brush and just put a nice little coating on everything that is, you know, fashion jewelry, everything that's base metal, and it really adds longevity to your piece. And if you keep sunscreen on your skin, or if you live in a tropical climate where there's humidity, it's just, you know, a great thing to do. And on this necklace, it's only that. I like let it lay in my little dish. It dries really fast. On this necklace, it's only that and my magnetic clasp that needs to be done, because my wire, my 20 gauge wire that I did everything else out of, has an anti-tarnish coating already. So I just am going to do that to everything on this piece, and it dries really fast. I can tell you that just in the time I was talking to you, this piece, the first piece I did, is already dry. So at least to the touch, you know. I might let it hang out a little bit before I actually wear it. I will put some pictures up at the end of the video, and don't forget to check the description box for links to the Didi Beads website. And I just can't say enough about the way that Stella puts together a bundle of Czech glass. They are so amazing, and I did decide to put my little Colosseum charm. It's going to possibly go in my bracelet. These were some of the 2-hole beads that were in this bundle, and I have a really exciting project done with this, so I'll either do a video or come back and show it to you in a try-on. I'll see how my time factor goes, but definitely check out the bundles from Didi Beads. They are amazing. You can do so many projects. I've already done 3, and I have this one in, and still a whole project tray full of Czech glass beads. Really amazing little jewelry treasure for those of us who are creators. So I thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all safe and well and having fun on your beading mats, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao, creative friends.